It's my guy, Ed Prather from Ed Prather Real Estate, who joins us right now. And I was just speaking on how lucky we are, at least as football fans, with CU, even CSU, and the Broncos, that it's been a hell of a fall, man, for football here in Colorado, don't you think?
Absolutely. And, I think, coming off a win or a couple of wins, that we have, I mean, what a fun weekend. And it's hard not to, I find myself like now my hopes are rising, gosh, we got that KC game taken from us, but pretty exciting. BYU loses, we got a path to the Big 12 championship, at least the championship game. And here we go. We just need to beat Kansas, and they've been playing well.
Kansas has been playing well. I'm very nervous about that one. It's a hell of a game. And BYU plays Arizona State at the same exact time. Both games start at 1:30, and that is gargantuan because we've always just assumed it was going to be BYU. But if Arizona State wins, they could knock BYU out of the Big 12 chase completely. And I've been paying attention to Arizona State, of course, but nobody really knows what's going on there in the desert. They've shocked everybody.
Right.
So, Ed, we'll have an interesting house divided because my older son went to Arizona State and is a huge Sun Devils fan. He travels to see them all the time, basketball and football. So, and my Dylan, my younger son, has been covering CU all year. He's been up there at all the games, all the press conferences, doing all that stuff for the right. So, oh my God.
It's gonna be hey, a good problem to have, though, right?
Right. And, well, yeah.
I mean, it's I don't exactly know how it works with the playoffs. So, and I'm sure you've talked a lot about this, but am I right to understand that it's mandated that the Big Four champions, they wouldn't necessarily get a bye, but they will be in the playoff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But you could. I saw a scenario where the Big 12 champion was the 12th seed. So it's God, that's kind of crazy, right? So it depends on your ranking at the final year, like where you sit. So like Boise State is one of the top teams in the country. They're in the Mountain West. So because of this playoff system, there was no path for a Mountain West champion to actually win the national championship. Well, now there is. And I think it's exciting for CSU too. If they can make it, I think they would probably get killed by Boise State, but whatever. Be fun to be in that sort of situation. But you may have a situation where possibly, Ed, CU could win the Big 12 and be the 12th seed. Now, let me tell you something that would be fun. Seeds 5, 6, and so the top 4 seeds get a bye.
Right.
5 through 12 play basically a playoff game, okay? That playoff game is at the home field of the higher seed. So theoretically, if CU were to have 5, 6, 7, something like that, that means, check this out, you would have a playoff game in Boulder in December, which has never happened before, obviously.
Well, so when you say higher seed, I mean, I think of 12 being a lower seed. Like you wouldn't play at the lesser team home field, would you?
No. Yeah.
If you're going 12 versus 5.
5, 12, how would we do? 5, 12, 6, 11, 7, 10, 8, 9.
So you'll play at 5, right?
Yeah, 5.
Okay. But I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation in the fall, and what are we 6-5 with the Broncos? But yes. I think we all have that feeling. I mean, like, it's like, wow, like, is this our guy? I mean,
well, what do you think? And when I say the guy, I mean the guy. 10 years, the guy. We can see parades and Super Bowls. Like, that's the guy. Can you see it?
I can absolutely see it. But what I remember, and I think that you absolutely would agree, is whether it's defense, whether it's a running game, like it can't just be like, hey, this brand new rookie guy is going to carry us. But if we can continue, I mean, like Vance Joseph has done such a good job. And, the defense has an identity. I thought the running game looked good. I mean, just power rushing. And so I do think he's the guy. And you and I were agreeing about this early on, that I think he checks a lot of boxes. His longer, like mid-range to longer throws, maybe it's a confidence thing, but there was one rope over the middle that I just thought was spectacular.
Dude, it was crazy. I asked him about that afterwards too, and he said, "Well, we've always had that throw." And and I'm like,
it worked out pretty good. I mean,
well, I know why he would sort of blanch against like that's something new, because that's a big time NFL throw. Like, to be in the NFL, you've really got to make that throw in a very small window. So you take a certain amount of pride that you can do it. And likely he has done that a lot at Oregon, but it's different once you get to the pros. It's just the athletes are better. The windows are smaller. You're,
right.
more nervous, blah, 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 blah. But hey, man, 11 starts. He's making throws like that. He looks like he belongs. He feels like he belongs. Like, you're not a rookie anymore after a while during your rookie season. 11 starts, Ed? 11 starts? You're good.
Well, you got it. We're not riding this. I mean, we have a good defense, but we're not riding one part of our game. I mean, like he is a big part of our outcome. As any quarterback is going to be, but he's doing what he needs to do. And all of a sudden you look at these stats and some of the stuff, what was it? Like the stat line, no rookie has ever achieved 300 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, 80% completion. And it's hard not to be excited. I see it. And now the anxiety comes up because we're expected to win. We need to win.
Yes.
And even that Ravens game, I was just crushed.
That Ravens game, that to me that sucked. That sucked from the beginning. That sucked. Like, that was just like, whatever.
When we talked about it, 41-10. It was a routing, but it could have been different. Anyway, we got to put it behind us, just like we talked about.
Yeah, like when you say, even if you have a great season, right? Even if you have a great season, you're gonna lose some games. Well, right. What games are going to be kind of all right? We lost that one on the road against the Ravens. Fine, whatever. And I got a lot of heat on the radio because I was trying to tell people, and it's probably bad for radio reasons, I guess, but I was like, it's not a big game. This is not that big of a deal. It isn't. And whether you lose by a little or a lot, sometimes, Ed, I swear to God, sometimes it's a lot easier to lose by a lot.
Right.
Like, it doesn't. The Chiefs game will stick with me forever.
How exactly right. I mean, if you compare those, and so I think you'll remember this, but if you go back to 2012, when Jacoby Jones did that awful thing to us in the playoffs with Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Do you remember what happened like 4 weeks earlier? We beat them up so bad in Baltimore.
Yep.
And it just shows things change. And despite that Chiefs game, I don't know, it feels like we're putting the pieces together, and those cohesiveness, like that culture.
Yeah.
So very exciting.
Ed, you're going into the way back machine, but I love it. Not only, I'll give you something else about that game that they won against the Ravens. There were 4 weeks left in the season, and after that game, the Ravens fired Cam Cameron, their offensive coordinator, which is a massive change that late in the season. So the Broncos thumped the Ravens. The Ravens fire their offensive coordinator, which is wild to do something so late, and won the Super Bowl.
What was that, against the 49ers?
The Super Bowl was against the 49ers. That was in New Orleans. That was when the lights went out, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I was down there for that Super Bowl. I was in the Superdome when the lights went out. And, that was weird. I'm not going to lie.
With that many people, that's weird.
Lights go out at the Super Bowl, dude. You start thinking about what the hell's going on outside. You start having some moments of like, is everybody okay here? Is the country okay? Like, you really have some questions. But that week was highlighted because it was Jim Harbaugh against John Harbaugh. And I realized John Harbaugh, kind of a cool dude. Jim Harbaugh, total weirdo. Was my great coach. No doubt.
Well, you see that now, right? I mean,
great. Hey, not questioning if he can coach, but total freaking weirdo. So
Well,
that's what stood out to me.
I guess sometimes, that's what it takes at the highest level,
Maybe. All right, Ed, what is going on this week in real estate? What is happening out there?
Well, we talked, gosh, maybe the last couple of weeks, but we had that big pop in value in October that none of us expected. The median close value went up by 4.3% in just 1 month. Part of that was we had rates dip, but then they sort of have ticked up. And the interesting piece of that is we've seen the sustained activity. So more people in the market, more offers happening, more sellers listing, even at this time of year, which is really, it's amazing. Like the activity from showings to offers to sales has increased, and I expect that certainly into the spring. Now, we did get some data last week that shows that inflation has ticked up just a little bit. And bottom line, what that means for us is we were hoping that the Fed would make another cut. In sort of our goal to bring down interest rates, and that cut would be in December. That may not happen because they're really sensitive and they don't want to have it spike and have to go the other direction. So again, we expect that rates are going to come down, but it's not happening quite as quickly as we'd like. But we're seeing more and more folks take advantage of that inventory out there, which is now shrinking because of the activity and the offers going out.
Somebody reaches out to you. What's the first thing that you're asking them?
We need to understand what the home run looks like. And it's just so hard to template that because obviously we're going through sort of a counseling interview, a buyer or a seller counseling interview, and really understanding, hey, what is happening? What does the timing look like? What does the product look like? Are we looking to buy or sell? Obviously, two very different paths, but we are here to make that a really smooth process. But at the end of the day, 99.9% of people just want the most money in their pocket, or they want to get a deal. And so we work really, really hard to make sure that happens. But each situation is different. Sometimes it's months out, years out, and sometimes it's, hey, this thing has changed in my life and we need to go now. And so we work as a team to make it happen. I mean, right now we're getting sellers still buying down rates significantly to make it work for buyers. But, in the last 2 weeks, we've seen our new listings that go live on Thursdays. When they're priced well and marketed well, they move very, very quickly. So I think the biggest thing too is the metro area is made up of micro markets, neighborhoods, and every single neighborhood operates differently. And so taking that deeper dive to understand really what's going on around you is going to give you a good idea of what's possible and how we get there.
It's Ed Prather at edprather.com. That's edprather.com. My man, love you. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, Ed.
See you